Hey guys, it's me again, Orkslayer. What is where we last left off? Let's see, checking. Where we last left off, I did a full recap, and I showed a little bit after what had happened with after the little fighting. So, quick summary again. The Space Marines have officially introduced themselves to the UA staff at the very least, so that they know what's going on and who they are. They were skeptical at first, but then they started seeing like where Power Loader says their armor is the most advanced thing I've ever seen. There's so much death and carnage. Like, they came around to it very quickly. Class 1A has been taught what has happened and what the things they fought were, because they would try to see if they could hide the truth a little bit, but Deku says in the entirety of the years, Chaos has always taken those who did not know what they were dealing with. So they need to, not Deku, but a few. They saw like where if you try to keep everyone in ignorance, they will be more easily influenced by those objects. Essentially what happened with Magnus. He was misled by Zinch, and ended up turning to Chaos because he tried to do good but did bad. Magnus did stuff wrong. But I digress. They got everything underway and they've had to explain to them, as well as Momo saying that she knew about that sort of stuff, and so did Sato, but everyone can see why Sato knew, and it's because Sato is a Space Marine, as they've come to know them as. And so following these whole ordeal, we skip to a week. Let's go with an entire week. As UA staff wanted to give kids like a point to settle in, but they also wanted to talk more with the Space Marines and get an idea of what they'll probably have to deal with. And as Nezu had arranged multiple meetings for the somewhat of a council of the Space Marines and all those on board of it, such as, Neveron, Captain, Hazashi would be there, but not anymore. Then you got the tech priest who actually wanted to come along and speak to UA about the advancement of technology and how far they have come along. So they could either see if that could they somewhat, if possible, show the technology, because and this isn't like the entirety of the tech priest. This is like a little, like one or two of them that would be interested in teaching some of the technology to Power Loader, since they also see him as a man of technology. Since he like uses a bunch of, like the power suit that he wears. Then you got, I'm trying to think of the other ones. Then you got no one else really, since the civilians on board or the normal humies, they don't really have anything that they really need to do. So they just merely nod and like shake their and greet those who come aboard the lamenter ship or what's left of it, as they have actually set up a nice decent village you call like outside of the ship, where people aren't just, and the children of the ship are like excited. They're downright happy because finally they aren't stuck on a world that's in hell, or just a random world. 2, they aren't in the warp or confined to the ship. And 3, they finally get to see, as they would know it, an Earth in its prime, quote unquote. Prime is a very subjective term. Prime would probably be when not Earth first started, because people could not breathe during then. So I would say probably around maybe 13th century, maybe 100, or the 11th century, where humans didn't really do a lot with all that, as far as I know. So that would probably make the most sense. And you couldn't go back before then, because the air, I'm not sure about the air for dinosaurs. I think it was made better. Oof. Sorry, I digress, and sorry for prattling on. But we go on with the story, following along where Deku and all them, you know. But as eventually Deku's coming down from his thing, he's like, as one day he just like, he fell asleep as the lamenters recorded this. The apothecary's like, he fell asleep. What does that mean? As he was, like I said, he was pretty much buried, chained, whatever they had to do to get him to be tied down. As Izumi is actually coming down from it too, as they're like, as Deku somewhat hears a voice, and he's like, what is that? As it speaks to him in a nice, soothing voice that he hasn't heard. As it tells him, sorry, it somewhat gives him a warning of something to come, saying that you must stay vigilant, for the enemy will always return, and only in death does duty end. As it cuts out, he's like, only in death does duty end. What is enemy? Fulcrum. As he's thinking of all these things, Fulcrum will be at the center of this. Like, know it. God, get up. As he rips off the chain, as he moves around for a bit, he breaks out and climbs back to wherever he need to. As he was buried in chains somewhat, so he broke the chains and dug himself out. As the lamenters somewhat freaked out about this, then they saw he was normal. As he's like, as he could feel that there was something, there was more that whatever it wanted to say, whatever it said, whatever the thing that was talking to him, it wanted to say more, but he felt like it couldn't. And then you go over to Izumi, he was like, what? As she hears a voice as well. But it's different. Not the same, as it's like, war. Ah, yes, war. I've been waiting for this day. As it says, go, my little warrior. As it disappears as well. She's like, what the fuck? And she's looking around, she's like, that doesn't make any sense. What was that? As she's rubbing her head, she's like, I remember. As at the same time, they're both thinking, I remember seeing, as they're like, Dad, as they both, as Izumi, like, is done with her thing, since she gets up and bangs on the door asking for out, as she is let out by the librarians, who then begin to try and ask her questions, as she's just frantic saying, where's my father? And she's just sort of like trying to push through him, like, calm down, calm down. And Deku's like the same, as he's like, father. As he's pushing through them, like, move, move. As he actually shoves one and actually sends a few feet away, as he's like, oh, crap. As he falls on his back, he's like, so like, brother, calm down, Deku. Calm down, Angel. As they're all calming him down, Izumi's just like, as they're like, you've been out for almost a week, Lady Izumi. You need your rest for a time. She's like, I need to speak with my father. She's like, that may be difficult. As they're explaining to her what had happened entirely, that after the two of them had gone berserk, they virtually wiped out the remaining forces of the chaos that were there. As sorry again, I don't know why I'm yawning. I'm not even tired. As they explain to her that a lot of stuff has happened recently and that you need your rest, as she continues to push, as they eventually just say, you two, take her. Head librarian, can you help her out real quick? As he responds, fine. As they take her to where their father is, and that he's in his stasis chamber at the very moment. Now, his wounds are lost limb, lost leg, and a very grievous wound to the chest for a space marine. As she looks upon him, she's like, oh god. As then we get to Deku as he's stumbling through the halls As he's like, Father, I gotta speak with Father. As he moves through, he sees, he's like, Izumi? She's like, Deku, Father is unconscious. As he walks over and actually falls down, trips a little bit, he's like, as he stands up and peers through, like, the window, he's like, they have him stasis for the moment. Until the apothecaries are finished tending to the others, he will have to remain on hold, as Deku's like, that's fine. As long as he's fine, I don't care. She's like, alright, Deku, but what shall we do? He's like, I don't know. As he's just rubbing his head, he's like, what do you see? She's like, I saw hell. As Deku says, same. I saw Horus, and I saw Sanguinius, or I was Sanguinius, and I fought Horus. As he's remembering the detail about how Horus looked that day, he remembers the dark armor with the 8-pointed star. No, wait. I think it's 6-pointed star, sorry. The 6-pointed star. The eyes, the power claw, his power maul in his hand, World Breaker. As he remembers clashing his sword with him and giving it as Sanguinius gave into the rage. As he fought and fought, and eventually one of them was slain, but when that happened, it just went white, and then he says, then it repeated over and over and over and over again. As he talks about the many different things that he was a blood angel holding the walls at one point with his bolter and chainsword. Then in another, he was one that was punching heretics in the face. And then another, and the final one was him being buried alive. That he just rubs his head. He's like, I'm just gonna sit for a minute. As he slumps against the wall, not knowing what to do. And Zumi says that's not exactly what I saw. And she takes a big gulp of like a wad of spit that was in her throat. As she's like, I remember a large empire, a war, far older than anything. She remembers seeing men of metal with green lasers and skull faces. She remembers seeing what she would only attend to a god, or at least the closest thing to an interpretation of a god that she can remember her mother told her about, such as I think Cain was already killed by this. No, wait, Cain was not. She remembers that there was a god with a giant flame sword as he smashed through hordes upon hordes of the skeleton men. They also remember seeing giant green orcs with weapons that she would say rival even yours. Rivals Deku. And that they were just as strong. No, they were even stronger than even Deku. Or even a Dreadnought for that matter. As she says, they saw him smashing the things to bits. But then she also saw entire worlds burn for this war. And then she saw the fall of the Eldari Empire. The thing that spawned Slanesh into existence. The massive amounts of sacrifices, worlds burned, souls torn apart. For the final thing, she saw the climactic battle of Cain versus Slanesh. She saw that Cain was winning. Or not winning, but was holding his own. And she had somewhat a slight sense of hope, but dread at the same time. As then she saw the massive form of corn reach through and shatter Cain. And then, what's the word? Pretty much just throw away Slanesh. As she remembers all this, and she remembers the look in Cain's eye, the fury, the hate, the rage, everything that she would describe to murder incarnate. As then she says that's where her count ends. As Deku's like, I am not going to be able to sleep for a while. She's like, you don't even need to sleep that often. He's like, I know. As he rubs his head, he's like, oh, God, this sucks. So, what do you intend to do? She's like, I'm going to go home. He's like, I'm coming too. He stands up. Sano's like, Izumi, Midoriya, or Sensei, are you guys good? He's like, Sato, I'm too tired to even have you stop telling you not to call me Sensei. I'm going to go home. As he says, well, do you want an update with 1A and all that? And he's like, lay it on me. Well, the Marines, we've showed ourselves to UA, at the staff of UA. He's like, okay. We've remained hidden from the rest of the world, though. As it's like, that's not that big of a surprise. And finally, there's the thing about your thing with 1A, as it's like, go on. Everyone seems shaken up. Or they seemed very shaken up. Except for Momo, since, she dealt with something similar, she said. She's like, yes. Saved Momo in the past from a Slaanesh cult. Move on. Well, she says that she hoped you get better. As she's like, cool. She's always nice. Anything else is like Bakugo was fine. Even though he's like super... As he would describe him as his somewhat combat prowess and somewhat, as Sato would put it, bloodlust. Deku says it's not really bloodlust. That's more or less just a strive to be better, which we can all use. So yeah. Anyways, that was about it. As Deku's like, good. She's like, now to the teleporter. As Sato says, I'll talk to you guys later. I got to help more of the Scout Marines. He's like, how many of us survived the battle? It's like, well, with those of us who are still able to fight, are you just talking about those who are able to fight, or like entirely who survived? Entirely who survived. I know we had like 150, maybe 60. It's like, well, we only have 75 left that are battle ready, or battle brothers ready. What about Scout Marines? There's only 30 of them. We may have to increase our prospects from recruitment, since they have a rather large amount of civilians left, but they also know that they've been amping up the training to make up for the fact they can't send anyone else, since on this planet they probably won't be able to find anyone to send out. And plus, before they came here, they lost quite a few battle brothers to the horde of Tzeentch demons that attacked them. As Deku's like, alright. Speaking of which, Sato, what about those who are wounded? He's like, well, we got lucky there. Many of the wounded survived. How many of them are there? About 40 of them. So in all reality, we have, when we get back to full strength, we should at least have 115. If the Scout Marines can get it prepped and done with 30 of them, we should have 55. And we may have to start recruiting from this planet. We spoke to Nezu about this, saying that our numbers are really low. He says that, well, you can't really go just snatching up children, can you? As the lamenters look at one and is like, as he explained that, Nevron explained that they had explained to Nezu about how the recruit system works. Like, as well, as he explained that, well, it's not like they couldn't kidnap children, or any of you did, right? As Nezu tried to make a lighthearted joke, as Captain just stood there blank-faced, as is like, Nevron's just like, oh god. As like, you never did take children, right? And he's like, we grab children up from, depending on where they are. They old enough, sorry. For some of them, they're just recruited because they're chosen. Others are literally snatched up off the streets and thrown into the program. As Nevron would put it, he's like, they're snatched up and thrown into this warrior caste. As it's like, how is that ethical? As Neveron says, when things get desperate enough, children are always the first to suffer when it comes to war scenarios, especially when you've been doing it nonstop for 4,000 years. Actually, scratch that, 10,000 years. So you take a child and turn them into one of you. He's like, we try to at least get teenagers, personally. We want to give children at least some form of childhood. Because when you join the Space Marine ranks, even as a Scout Marine, even if you fail as a Scout Marine and are not able to advance to a Space Marine, you could still either be before we came here, you could have just been sent back to your home planet if you failed initiation. But some stayed on and became serfs for the chapter. She speaks, they're like, oh, I see. So what about everything else? They go on with explaining, and Sato and them just like move on with the rest of the day. As Deku and them return home and get a warm welcome from Inko, since she's like, I'm glad you two are right. He's like, yeah, we gotta talk to you about some stuff later, but I'm just too tired. As he can feel that in his brain, it feels like the chemical glands that release rage and all that. I forget what the exact chemical is, or whatever it is that exactly releases in your brain that makes you feel hatred. But he feels like that part has just shriveled up to a husk. Yumi's like, I feel the same way. As they both go to bed, and Inko's like, I pray for my two children. And she's like, I hope Hisashi is okay. We won't go over to Hisashi. He's like sleeping, but he's still like dreaming. He's like, finally the Emperor calls me home. As in a voice calls out, it's like, only in death does duty end. And he somewhat wakes up back. He's like, I'm in stasis. Why? Anyways, I think that's where I'm going to end it off. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. Hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life. And I want your suggestions on how the Space Marines should go about recruiting more people now. Anyways, hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice